Hey everybody, this is Paige Martin with the Handmade Dolls app. Today we have Monique Daniels from MDANIELS Studio with her beautiful Afropeg dolls. I'm going to hit some pictures of her dolls throughout the video or whatnot. So Monique, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming. I just love your Afropeg dolls. I found you on Instagram, and as soon as I saw them, they kind of jumped out at me, you know, and I had seen you a few times. I finally started following you. And now that I'm following you, I see all the little stuff that you're doing, you know, online. And I want to just ask you, what made you think of Afropeg dolls? Like, tell me a little bit about your story and how you got to the Afropeg dolls to use as your doll artistry.
Sure. So the journey for the Afropeg dolls it really started out as a self-care for me, because I am a mother of 5 children. Obviously, all of us were home. Thank you. Obviously, all of us were home during the pandemic, you know, and it was just a lot mentally. You know, I homeschool my children as well. So I have a lot that I have to do for other people. I mean, obviously there's some mutual enjoyment, but a lot that I'm doing for other people. I didn't have a lot of time for myself. So early in the morning, like 5 o'clock in the morning, sometimes I would wake up and just take some time for myself. And I'm a creative person. I like to paint. So I do have creative little people here as well. So I had gotten them some peg dolls at some point for us to paint. And, you know, one morning I just grabbed some and I was like, well, I'm going to paint these. So that's what I started painting, because I wanted to paint. And then I was like, oh, I want to add some like Afro hair. And it was just like me just creating. And then when I created it, I said, oh, this is cute. So of course I took a picture of it and I just posted it just to share. And surprisingly, people really liked them. So
beautiful. They really are.
Thank you. So then that it evolved from there, because initially when someone asked if I was selling them, I wasn't at first. I was like, no, this is just something that I do for myself. But then once the pandemic really got, you know, we got a little bit deeper into it, and I was just really struggling mentally, if I'm being honest, right?
Okay.
And I said, well, if these things could bring me a little bit of joy, maybe it's worth it to share it with other people and let them have them in this time where it's just so much that isn't happiness, right?
Yes.
So I felt like it was worth it to do it.
So you really haven't been making them that long?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I'm an artist. I'm a creative person in general.
Right.
I have a fine arts background, but these particular dolls I have not been making long now.
Okay. So the connection with the dolls, did you have a favorite doll as a child? Did you play with dolls when you were younger?
I had plenty of dolls when I was a child. I had all kinds. I had Barbie dolls. I had the dolls you change their diapers or whatever. But my favorite doll was a Cabbage Patch doll. And I'm an 80s baby, so in the 80s these were hot. These were the hot dolls.
Yeah.
And I actually had the pleasure of having a black one. And it was a boy. His name was Marty. So that was my doll, my favorite doll.
Okay, so you mentioned that you're not just creative with the dolls, and that you do have a fine art background. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yes. So ever since I was a child, like from when I can remember, I was in 2nd grade, and my teacher says to my mother during some parent-teacher meeting, she's like, you know, she's a gifted artist. And I was like, oh, that was the first time I had ever heard that about myself. And I've been in art classes all my life and things like that. So as time progressed or whatever, at college time, I ended up going to school for interior design. So I am an interior designer by trade as well.
Okay.
Under MDANIELS Studio.
So that means that your home is beautiful.
You would think so, right? I mean, I do pick out, you know, things that are tasteful to me. Really, I try to make my home, I just fill my home with things I like. And that's really what I suggest for other people as well.
But I'm sure you have a great eye, because you have that fine. So you probably have really different things in there that draws people in, because you have that fine art background.
I mean, there are certain things, yes, I'm sure, that exist here that may not be other places or whatever, but, you know, some statement pieces, if you will.
Yeah. So how do you connect your culture, being African American or other? I don't know your whole genealogy background.
Yeah.
How do you connect that in your artistry with your peg dolls?
my culture, I am African American. Both of my parents are African American. I try to incorporate culture as much as possible. So, these dolls, they're very personal to me. Mm-hmm. So they're really a celebration of Black culture and Black features. So, if the puffy lips or the hair, like all those things are things I try to incorporate in the dolls. And just because I am who I am, and even as a designer, I love patterns. So most of my dolls will have some kind of, pattern on it. There are certain things that I always try to incorporate when I make them. So any cultural expression that I can put into the dolls, I try to. And even when there are custom dolls, I may not put as much, I may not take as much creative license, right? But there is a certain style, like especially the little puffy lips, that's always present in the dolls.
Well, what stood out for me was the hair, of course, as being a doll maker myself. We're always trying to find little different things to do with the hair. And some of the materials you use, I've also implemented in my own dolls, as well. But I just love, it's like they stand out differently on the pegs. I just love it. I love the little Afro puffs. And I love how you paint like the braids.
Yes.
I just love that. Like I probably would not have thought to do that had I done peg dolls myself.
Uh-huh.
Do you have themes that you use to create your peg dolls?
Sometimes. I try to
families, or do you do families and stuff like that?
So my custom orders typically are families. Like they're family portraits, right?
Okay.
So in that respect, I guess that would be a theme. But I try to let the creative process be organic as possible. Mm-hmm. Because when things are a little bit too cookie cutter or forced, then it takes a little bit of joy away from me. And that was the whole part of it. That's how it all started. So I try to maintain that whenever I'm creating them. Okay. So I do have some historical figure set. One I just sold was the inaugural poet set, which was Maya Angelou, Elizabeth Alexander, and Amanda Gorman.
Did you post that?
I did.
Okay, yes. I gotta go check.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So that sold this past week. It's shipping out tomorrow. So, but I do plan on doing more sets like that because once again, it's a celebration of Black culture, Black features, Black accomplishment. So I really go with my instinct on what I'm creating. So if it feels right, if it feels like a fit, then I'll create it.
Okay. So your animation, that you kind of incorporate as well. I'm going to tell you, I'm always looking for different things. I just downloaded something different on my phone recently because it's always new stuff coming out, new apps all the time.
Right.
When I saw the little animation, I was like, this is so cool because you're adding the personality of that doll, into your reel or whatnot. What made you do that? Like, what do you use different apps or whatnot? Or are you just using one app? I mean, you don't have to do everything. I mean, but I just thought that was cool.
So how that started was I was in my little workshop creating one day, and there was one doll that was kind of turned, facing another doll, and it looked like she was saying something a little slick because he was with his family. So this story started unfolding in my head, and that was the very first pegtail that I created. And I was like, I said this would be cute. And then I realized that it became this, I like to do storytelling with my kids and stuff like this. So it just kind of naturally evolved, right? And I was like, well, these stories could be cute. And it was fun. And it was just a way for me to have fun and engage my audience at the same time. So I started making them. Now, how I make them, I use up to 3 different apps to make it happen. My favorite one to use is InShot, which is a video editor.
I've downloaded that one too.
It's really great because it's the easiest as far as I'm concerned, because I've downloaded so many editing apps and things like that, but InShot allows me to do the voiceovers easily and edit very easily, trim and cut different clips and scenes and things like that, layering the sounds, because a lot of the times, if you, I don't know how many of the pegtails you've watched, but if you go back, you'll hear, like, if they're on the street, you hear street sounds. Like, I'm layering in all those sounds and things like that to try to make it, to try to make the story as believable as possible.
Yeah, I mean, it just adds a whole nother personality. It really, and you know, from one doll maker to another, it really makes you want to step up your game and see how creative you can be. Not to the same thing, you know, you never want to copy what somebody else is doing.
I understand what you're saying. I get it.
But thinking out of the box and seeing how creative, how much more creative you could be with trying to let people know what it is that you do.
Right.
You know? So what advice would you give another doll maker or whatnot who was interested in using peg dolls? Because I'm sure that there's some things have been trial and error, you know, there's some things that have worked and some things that haven't worked. What advice would you give them?
I mean, honestly, I would just say create. You know, you're going to create and explore, right? Because you're going to try new things, and some things will work, some things won't work. Like even when we talk about doing the doll's hair, right? I'm always trying to figure out ways, especially with black hair. Okay, there are so many different ways to style and do our hair, and to translate that onto a peg doll, it really does take trial and error. Like I had an order I just shipped out yesterday. She had a relaxed hair, and I'm like, well,
how in the world did you put that on a peg doll?
So in my brain, I'm like, I really have to think about it sometimes, and I'm like, well, how am I going to translate? And it was like relaxed and curled. I was like, you know, I'm like, I want the doll to look like this person because it was a portrait.
Yeah.
At the same time, you know, I don't want it to lessen the effect of the doll. There's a certain aesthetic that the doll has. So it will be posted soon. You'll see how I work that out. But I was able to work it out. And I'm, you know, every time, it's weird. Every time the past few custom orders that I've gotten, there's always some challenge. Like someone wanted me to do a pet. And I'm like, oh, a pet. So I figure it out.
A pet?
So, yes, a pet dog.
Okay.
Right. I wasn't doing dogs, but now I'm doing dogs. Yeah. You know? Yeah. Or somebody wanted some headpiece, and I'm like, oh, so it's all just exploring and trial and error. There's really, you know, there's no right way or wrong way. What I would say is, you know, don't look at what other peg doll artists are doing, you know, as far as stylizing your dolls. You know, let it be whatever it is that you're doing. Like, you don't have to do the puffy lips like I do, or you don't have to do, like, you know, everybody has their style, right? So I would say don't copy anyone's style. And also don't copy anyone else's price point, because that can be, that's not always helpful for someone who's trying to sell their dolls, you know?
Okay, now since we're talking about price point, how long does it take you to make the dolls? Because that is something that people would include, the time that it takes, and when they're trying to determine what their price point is. How long does it usually take you to create from beginning to end until you're looking at it and saying, okay, I'm done with that?
Well, it depends on like the size of the order and the complexity of the doll. So the way like my price list is arranged, it goes from very basic as far as not detailed to very detailed. Now, most people want the very detailed ones because those are the ones with all the braids and all the patterns on the dresses and things like that. So I would say an order of 3 pieces could take about a week, maybe a week and a half. And it just depends, like, because sometimes all 3 pieces need specialty hair, and the hair takes a long time sometimes. Like I have to sit there and wait for things to dry. I have to hold things in place. I have to manipulate yarns a lot of the time. Sometimes I'm separating, you know, strands and strands of yarn, a bunch of it to get a nice thick head of hair. So it really just depends. But it does take quite a while. Okay.
So what are some of the challenges and some of the triumphs that you faced as a creative? I know you have kind of just started this piece of your artistry. So what are some of the challenges and the, you know, uplifting results that you've gotten from creating your peg doll?
Well, the challenges, oddly enough, the peg dolls were kind of an easy transition for me, because really it started off being for me. So maybe that has something to do with it. Yeah,
it was more of like a therapy for you.
Right. So it really didn't matter if people were paying attention to me because it was really for me initially. And then once I did start to create it for people, I did realize how special they were. So I was just kind of at that point, just really just inviting people like, hey, come over here and just share this journey with me. Come look at these dolls, come look at these stories, come look at these, animations, like come have fun, because I know everybody's having a hard time. Like, let's just come have fun. So it was really approached from that. That's how I really entered it. So it was not very difficult, to be honest. Okay. If you ask me about being a creative in general, especially on the interior design side of it, that's a whole nother animal.
Okay.
Because while I'm an interior designer, right? And I think establishing value as a creative is difficult in general.
Right.
I think it's very difficult to get people to understand the value of your work. So especially, now we talk about interior design where you have HGTV, you have all these platforms that you may see online that offer these services for very low prices. So then it seems like me as a creative is competing with these platforms, which I would never charge, $25 for a design, because there's just so much work that goes into it.
Yes.
So that part is very difficult, trying to establish the value, getting in front of the customers to see the value, differentiating yourself from these other services, which are not, we're not talking apples to apples. They're not direct, competition, but in the consumer's eyes, they might be. So that's very difficult. And then all the time that you put in getting in front of people, as an entrepreneur and marketing, and it's just a lot of time with, if you may see no turnaround, you may see no financial gain from it at all.
Right.
So it's just, that is very difficult. But like I said, the win on this side with Afropegs is, let me double back. So another hard part about being a creative is monetizing your visual artistry in an authentic way. So I would think the win is with Afropegs, I am able to do that. I don't have to, copy anybody else's style. I don't have to change them in any way. Even when I'm adapting them for customs or for businesses or things like that, there's still an authenticity about them that I'm able to maintain. There's still the joy in it that I love that I'm able to maintain. And that's an absolute win for me, because while it's work, because I have to do it, it's work that I love to do.
Okay.
And it's work that serves me and other people.
Okay. So with it starting out as more of a therapy for you,
right?
Do you feel pressure when you're creating for others sometimes? Is it ever not fun anymore?
So I have to hold very strict boundaries then, right? Because in order to maintain that joy, I can't take on too many orders at one time. I can't take custom orders all year round, because at that point, we'll be on a runaway train, and then it won't be what it was or what I need it to be. So that's where I am. Like, custom orders just closed last week.
Okay.
I have 3 that I still need to complete, and it's okay. As they, if they take a little bit of time, if they take a little bit longer, I'm very communicative with my clientele. I'll let them know exactly what's going on, because once people give me their money, I want to give them their stuff. That's just the way, that's what I would want. Once I pay you my money, I want my stuff.
Right.
But at the same time, it does take time to create. So since speed is not, time is not on our side in this case, then I'm going to communicate, listen, this is what's going on with your order. And that's what I do.
So what has been the response that you've gotten from your kids? Because this is like news. So like, what are they saying? Are they amazed? I mean, I know they probably already know you're creative.
They're so used to me. I mean, like I said, I homeschool them / unschool them. So they're all like, everything is kind of intertwined. So everyday business, they're involved. I'm talking to them about why I'm doing, how I'm doing. What was a pleasant surprise is that I use their voices for pegtails too sometimes.
Okay.
So they love the stories, and they're like, oh, can I see it? Can I see it? And some of them are like a little bit more adult. So I'm like, no, you can't really see this one.
Okay.
I mean, and they're not, obviously, they're not like X-rated, but it's just like material that I don't feel like explaining what exactly I'm talking about. So, but they love being involved. And my daughter, my 9-year-old, she is a creative. Actually, all my daughters are emerging. I realized that the 4-year-old, the 2-year-old, they all like to paint and things like that. But my 9-year-old is like my sidekick, my road dog. She'll come in here, like we're talking color theory, and everything's it's just really great.
Okay. Well, you know, if I had to go back again, um, I was not on my creative journey until, well, I was on my creative journey. I was just in a different industry at the time before I started creating dolls and whatnot. But if I had to go back, I probably would have wanted my little groom and bride to be little
The cake topper.
Yeah, I probably would have done it, and it would have made more sense had I been in this industry like I am now.
Right.
But I kind of missed that boat on that, because we have to put that on another cake, you know, maybe an anniversary cake or something. We'll put
you can still do you and your groom like a portrait.
Yeah, we can still do that. So tell me, what do you have coming up? I mean, I know we're still in a pandemic, but certain regulations and restrictions are being lifted a little bit. Do you have any events that are coming up that you want to share with the doll community?
I don't have any events coming up right now. I do encourage, everybody to please subscribe to my newsletter, because whenever I do have an event or I'm making an announcement about custom orders or anything that I'm trying to share with my audience, it's going to be in the newsletter. And the reason I encourage people to subscribe is because, one, my stuff doesn't always show up in your feed for whatever reason. Whatever algorithm decides to show you, they show you. So you may miss some information. And sometimes these platforms, they just get really funky and you may have to just exit altogether. So, if you sign up for the subscription, then that way I can at least stay in contact with you. But I will make an announcement now that I have a custom order waitlist opening up, because I'm just preparing, once again, keeping things very strict so they don't get out of control for the holidays and things like that. So holiday orders are going to end very early, because the whole idea is to spread joy. I don't want to be making anybody upset at the end of the year because their order's not there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So with all that being said, please let the community know where they can go and find you, all your social media platforms where you can be contacted, and we'll post that at the end of the video.
Oh, sure. Thank you. I am mainly on Instagram. That's where you'll find most of my content. I'm also on Facebook, and I'm on Fanbase now. Fanbase is the Black social media app. I left TikTok. I don't post on TikTok anymore because of the way they've been treating their Black creators. It doesn't seem to be fair at all. And, it's just not worth my time at that point. So right now it's Instagram, Facebook, Fanbase, and of course the website, MDANIELSstudio.com/shop.
Okay. So that's what you are on all those platforms.
Yes.
Okay. I got you. Well, Monique, it has been a pleasure to get to know a little bit more about you and your Afropegs Dolls. You can also check in with the Handmade Dolls app. We're definitely going to post your video there, and it will also be posted on YouTube and all of that great stuff.
Oh, great. Thank you.
We look forward to doing some, more things together.
Yes.
Like hopefully one day
please.
I can actually meet you in person.
Where are you?
I'm actually in Atlanta.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I have family in Georgia, so maybe.
Oh yeah, if you got family in Georgia, when you come down, please hit me up.
I'll look you up. Yes.
Okay. All right. So thank you so much, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Thank you for having me. Have a great day.